guys, it's Debbie, and today I would like to speak about a TV series created by Paul Feig, Freaks and Geeks, which actually aired for the first time nearly a couple of decades ago, between 1999 and 2000. It is a comedy drama series mainly based on the coming-of-age genre, and which combines different topics such as peer pressure, conflicts within the family, the feeling of oppression in a closed-minded environment, rebellion and small acts of criminality, drug and alcohol consumption, homosexuality, love and rejection, and so on. The story is set at the beginning of the 80s in a small suburb of Detroit, where everybody seems to know each other and the inhabitants' attitude is not very open-minded. The main characters are all connected through the school they attend, McKinley High School. They are then split into two categories, the Freaks and the Geeks. The Freaks are represented by Daniel, portrayed by James Franco, his girlfriend Kim, Busy Phillips, and his friends portrayed by Jason Segel and Seth Rogen. They tend to not work very hard in school and prefer to hang out together, attend concerts, play together in their band, and they sometimes commit to small acts of vandalism. The Geek group instead is represented by Sam, John Francis Daly, and his two best friends, Neil, Sam Levine, and Bill Martin Starr. They don't usually attend social events, preferring to stay at home, eating junk food and playing video games or board games with their other geek friends. They are often picked on and bullied by the jocks, a third category in the school represented by popular school athletes and good-looking cheerleaders. They are always chosen for different activities and they're often considered the best students regardless of their arrogant attitude. One of the main characters in Freaks and Geeks is Sam's sister Lindsay, portrayed by Linda Cardellini. She is a very clever student, she belongs to the mathlete team and has never got into trouble. As a matter of fact, one of her best friends is the extremely conservative Millie. Although Lindsay may appear happy and satisfied with her successful life, she is bored of her repetitive lifestyle, the closed-minded environment in which she lives, and her parents' strict attitude. So she quickly becomes fascinated with the Freaks, with which she becomes close friends. They give her that freedom that she has always needed, although she is often critical of some of their behaviours, for example the regular use of drugs. Now, Freaks and Geeks inherited a lot from the high school genre, so the Grease type of film, in which we follow the life of students in and out of school, and they usually tend to be split into categories, the most popular being cool versus uncool. But Freaks and Geeks then evolves from that genre and creates a bridge between the different groups. It creates connections between all characters, so freaks, geeks, jocks, parents, teachers, students. For example, Lindsay loves hanging out with the freaks. She's extremely influenced by their actions and by their behaviour, but she also tries to help them, for example with their schoolwork or even just in their normal life. The freaks result just as rejected as the geeks, as nobody seems to understand their cries for help, their desire to excel in school, but the struggle after years and years of poor studying. Also, their rebellious nature is often portrayed as a consequence of private family issues, and this is where the concept of a family is introduced. In most films and series of this high school coming-of-age genre, family is often excluded. It's not an important part in the story, it's more of a plot filler for what the children do, so what their sons and daughters do. In this case, instead, family is extremely important, and often the decisions that the characters' parents make influence a whole episode. So Freaks and Geeks, family is an important element both positively and negatively. For example, the Weir family, so Sam and Lindsay's parents, are very strict, but they are also very loving and understanding. But we are not only shown positive family situations. On the contrary, we are introduced to abusive parents, jealousy, cheating, absent and hateful parents, so an extremely realistic portrayal of family issues. So at first glance, Freaks and Geeks might appear as a fun, light comedy show with all the typical elements of a safe, closed neighbourhood, and although it is rich in comedy and fun situations, it never forgets topics such as criminality, death, death, anger, bullying, so there is much more than what meets the eye. Now let's take a look at the soundtrack. A lot of importance is given to music. It is a fundamental element of the plot. First of all, one of the main characters, Nick, dreams of pursuing a career in the music industry, so he mostly speaks with references to big names in the world of music, and he always wears or carries band merchandise. Also, as the show is set in the 80s, the parents and teachers of the younger characters often encourage them to listen to music from the previous decades. So all of this combined makes the series rich with references and songs to artists such as Van Halen, Lynyrd Skynyrd, Janis Joplin, The Who, Deep Purple, Queen, Jethro Tull, and many more, for a total of more than 100 songs in the first season. Also, the series opens with Bad Reputation by Joe and Jet, which underlines again the rebellious attitude teenagers often have. Unfortunately, Freaks and Geeks only made it to season 1, now available on Netflix, although it is considered one of the best TV series ever made. I personally really enjoyed Freaks and Geeks in its simplicity. It's not overachiever attitude. It has a fun and light tone, but it also lacks the fear of touching certain topics which could be considered upsetting. For example, the relationship between Neil and his father, which questions a lot the nature of family, what parents would do to keep a family together. And although there are some big names such as Franco and Rogen, and we have some guest appearances of the likes of Ben Stiller, it's the smaller characters that shined in this series. For example, I think that Bill Haverchuk's character was written and portrayed in a fantastic way. He's supposed to be quiet and isolated, often picked on by the cooler kids because of his reserved and polite manners and his appearance, which is the stereotypical geek. Huge glasses, a non-muscular physique, and a huge passion for science fiction and TV shows. And although Bill may appear very quiet and not very brainy, he actually proves to be more mature, clever, responsible, and understanding than most of his peers. So I think that Martin Starr perfectly portrayed a fun and loud personality hidden behind a mask of fear and rejection. Freaks and Geeks has had all this success even years later because it is following the wave of the 90s, 80s nostalgia, which seems to be going on everywhere right now, and we can understand its popularity by observing another extremely successful TV series, which is Stranger Things. Stranger Things speaks of a group of young friends during the 80s, bullied by popular schoolmates, and which enjoy spending their time playing board games such as Dungeons and Dragons, riding around town on their bikes, hanging out in the school labs. It really sounds familiar, doesn't it? So Freaks and Geeks is still successful in 2017, nearly 2 decades later, because as I explained in my video about Stranger Things, we feel really attached to the time in which these series are set, whether we lived in those times or not, because in general they bring us back to our childhood. We look at the kids with an older mindset, with a lot more experience than them, as if we were their parents, but also with a mixture of jealousy and nostalgia, because we want to be like them, riding around town on our bikes, playing board games in the basement while mum's cooking dinner upstairs. Everything in these series conveys that warm, nostalgic feeling of everything being okay, of everything being easy and familiar, from the small town to the bedrooms, from the outfits to the music, even if some of us, like me, weren't even born in the 80s. But in these series we recognise our own childhood and we desire wanting to go back to that time, but at the same time we are older, more responsible, and we feel nearly as parents towards these kids. So if you're looking for a fun, light teen comedy drama, but also with a combination of many other interesting topics, I definitely recommend watching Freaks and Geeks. The whole first season is now available on Netflix. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to share it and make sure to subscribe for many more movie related videos, and I'll see you soon in a new video. Bye!